Warning, this episode contains moderate spoilers for Pride and Prejudice and zombies. And just like in the movie, the women are taking over this episode. And that brings us to January 12th. It's All Been Done Radio Hour is a modern, geeky, scripted comedy in the style of old-timey radio. In 2019, the show will be a half hour earlier at 5 p.m. It's still performed at the second Saturday of every month at Mad Lab Theater. Get your tickets at madlab.net/tickets. Details can be found at itsallbeendoneradiohour.com. Please subscribe to It's All Been Done Radio Hour, the podcast, and support us at patreon.com/IABD. Welcome to Marianne's Macabre Review. Alrighty, folks, welcome to Marianne's Macabre Review. We have an all-girls show today. We have Jenny, who is our hostess today. We have Angela, who's been on the podcast before. Megan, have you been on the podcast before?
Yeah, for Halloween.
Yes. Oh, yes, the Halloween movie marathon.
2 of them, yeah.
Yes. And myself. Today we went all girls all the time. We did Pride and Prejudice, just the regular one. The 2 hour and so many minutes one. It's not the 5 hour one, is what I'm saying.
Not the BBC one.
Not BBC
not
TV
the Colin
series.
Firth classic.
And then we also watched Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. So we're going to compare and contrast, and then we're going to just talk about the horror movie, because that's what we're all about. But we wanted to bring this in because we knew if we wouldn't get Jenny on the podcast if we didn't have a little bit of romance in there.
The lightest gore possible.
To cover this whole thing, Jenny is probably the best Pride and Prejudice person ever. She's seen all the iterations of it, read the book, seen like Pride and Prejudice in Austin or something like that. Or
Lost in Austin.
Lost in Austin. All the different iterations of it. Megan has seen everything but hasn't read the book.
No, I read the book. I didn't see the zombie one.
Okay, that's right. She hadn't seen the zombie one. I have read the book, seen the zombie one, but not seen anything else. And then Angela had not seen any of it. So we have the whole spectrum here. So let's start out with what we thought about Pride and Prejudice, the regular one. We're going to start with our number one fan, Jenny. And then we'll go around, which will be Angela, Megan, and myself. So go ahead.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't watch the full BBC version with the true Mr. Darcy, Mr. Colin Firth.
I said we would, at a later date, we would catch up. Megan and I and Jenny would get together and we'd watch it like all day on Sunday or something.
Yeah, if you got a day to kill.
Yeah, if you got a day to kill, we'll try that.
So when we first came up with this topic, in my head, the only version of Pride and Prejudice is the BBC Colin Firth version. And my husband, Andy, at some point was like, you realize that you guys aren't watching that version, right? Like, you gotta prepare yourself that you're gonna be watching the Keira Knightley, Matthew McFadden version.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can do it. It's been a while, but I can do it.
You're underselling it.
You know what? And I really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. It had been several years since I had seen that version. Mm-hmm. I found it very enjoyable.
So how many times would you say you've seen the 5 hour version?
Oh, I used to watch it on loop in college while I was studying.
Uh-huh.
So I would get back home for class. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like you watched it back when it was like 7 VHS tapes.
Yeah, I would rent them from the library, and you couldn't rent all 7 at once, so I would have to rent them and then go return, the first 3 episodes and then get the last 3 episodes. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So it is, I would say, one of my favorite movies.
Okay, so you would say, ranking, you would say the BBC is first, and then the Keira Knightley one is second? That's the one we watched.
There's an 80s version too, isn't there?
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I'm not sure that I've seen an 80s version. There's like a 1930s version, which
nice.
I have seen. It is not great.
No, thank you.
I don't think they had quite figured out how to make a movie in the 30s yet. They were still trying to figure it out. It was kind of still like a play, not quite a movie. So, yeah, I would say, yeah. The Keira Knightley one. And then...
Okay, so rate your Mr. Darcy here.
Regular Mr. Darcy. So I thought Matthew McFadden, first half of the movie before he changes, he was a little awkward.
Yeah.
Like, stoic, couldn't quite get it. Colin Firth does a better job at that portion of the Darcy. But then absolutely love Matthew McFadden after he kind of makes that change and is a little bit more human. Like,
okay, yeah.
So really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Okay. Angela?
I liked it. I don't know.
Again, you don't have to say you liked it. If you didn't like it,
I did like it. I'm not really into drama, but then when I think about the other stuff that's my favorite, I probably am like, I love The Notebook, and that's kind of along the same lines. But yeah, I liked it. I don't know. I liked the same thing with you, like the romance story and all that stuff. As far as like the guy who played Darby, I felt he, like, at the beginning, he was kind of, like, zombie-like and just kind of just seemed standoffish and stuff. But then at the end, I mean, he was great.
Yeah. Very romantic. I loved it.
Yeah.
He actually, like, turned a switch on and I was like, oh my god, he's acting now.
Yeah.
Megan?
I really like the Keira Knightley version. I mean, especially because I don't just always have 6 hours to set aside to watch a movie. So this is a nice alternative because I feel like they hit all the parts of the book that are important. Like, it spends enough time on those things that you get the full story and you get a thorough look at the full story without 6 hours of investment. And, I mean, same thing with Mr. Darcy. I agree with all that. But I also thought Keira Knightley was a surprisingly good Elizabeth. When it first came out, I did not expect to like her in that role. But I thought she played it pretty much perfectly. So, I like it.
I've always liked Keira Knightley. I've liked her in everything I've seen her in. Even that King Arthur that she did, where she was Guinevere. That was
Wasn't she a badass
tribal.
in that movie?
Yes. Once again, another badass. So we'll get to that later when we start talking about the zombie version. When it comes to my ranking, I've seen two. I've seen this one and then the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I'm still leaning towards Pride and Prejudice and Zombies as my favorite. Only because in this one, in the Keira Knightley version, there was way too much people staring at each other and not talking. and there were times when it was silence, and I looked at everyone in the room, and then I looked at the screen, and there was still silence. And so I was like, somebody say something, because gosh, the pregnant pauses and the close up on people's faces when they didn't say anything. But you wanted them to say something because you knew they loved each other and they were waiting for it. They did that pause a little bit too much for me. And mainly because I knew the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies one. I knew, like, oh, this is where he's going to do this thing and he's going to say it. And he doesn't, because in the book, it's more extended and they do all those different extra things. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with it. So let's move to the zombie version now. And we'll start with Jenny again, so she can do our Darcy impersonation for us and talk about the pants.
So I saw Pride and Prejudice and Zombies when it came out in the theaters.
Nice.
So years ago, whenever that was. And I kind of hated it.
Hated it? Really?
I would say I kind of hated it, yeah. And kind of, I hated it. We'll say that.
But, like, also give the context of how you feel about horror movies.
Yeah, I'm not a huge... Yeah, so I'm coming in, not a huge horror fan. It actually scares me. I will get nightmares watching horror movies. The gore is a little too much for me, so I'm a bit of a wimp when it comes to horror movies. But I love Jane Austen in Pride and Prejudice. So I thought, hey, here's a good combination. We can see this. I thought they got Darcy all wrong. So, taking a step back, this time watching Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was
Yeah.
great. Like, I thought it was fun. I thought, like, I
It
loved the
was
women empowerment.
Funny.
Yes.
And the fun. Okay, we're going to need to remember this. We need to talk about Mr. Collins.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, definitely.
How can we not?
And it made me think, like, I want to see all of my Jane Austen movies remade with, like, the women empowerment spect on them. Like, I feel like Elizabeth Bennet was always, like, a very strong woman, but set in a time where there's only so much you can do with that. Whereas with the zombie, they kind of progressed that to modern times, which was pretty cool to see. So I would be up for seeing all of the other versions of Jane Austen movies. Maybe not with zombies in them, necessarily.
Sensibility and sea monsters.
That's true. But yeah, still the Darcy character. Why is he in leather? You can hear the leather as he walks on the... And not as much here, but when we were in the theater, all I could hear was like, the leather.
He's in leather because it's a zombie apocalypse. That's the easy
And it's
answer.
harder to bite through leather than it is to bite through cloth. So.
Oh, that actually makes sense.
And it makes you look super cool.
And you look hot.
Yes.
Well, if you notice, Lady Catherine was wearing leather, too.
That's true.
And she looked super cool.
And she was super hot in it, too.
Yeah, that's fair.
That was Cersei Lannister, Lena Headey, and I love her.
Yeah, she's
so
great.
Cool. Yeah, great role in this. So, okay.
Well,
so
what's wrong with his voice?
Okay, so yes, that was the voice.
So, like, you guys heard that,
Yeah.
right? Like, that wasn't just me.
What does his voice sound like?
like there's like a sea creature living in his voice. Like, I don't understand what's happening.
I feel like he was impersonating Batman. Like, I want to be dark and brooding, and he watched Batman to do that instead of like any other Pride and Prejudice movie. He's like, yeah, no, this is the brooding I'm going for. Yeah.
I mean, do we know if that's just how that actor talks? We've never seen him in any other movie.
Yeah, we haven't seen him in anything else, so that might be his voice. And I am sorry if that's your voice.
He shouldn't get another role for his voice, though.
I don't know. It kind of worked for me. I did like it.
You liked it, okay.
Yeah, I remember I hadn't seen any of the other Mr. Darcys, though. So I was like, this brooding Mr. Darcy's kind of doing it for me in leather and everything. So, Angela, this is your first time seeing it. So, what'd you think?
I like it. I feel like the love story wasn't as... it wasn't as clear as it was in the first one.
Yeah,
because like in the zombie one at the beginning when they're at that ball, you know, he looked at Elizabeth, is that her name? Mm-hmm. And in this one, in the zombie one, he didn't. So I'm kind of like, it kind of
glanced at everyone and was
just,
like,
I felt like the love story wasn't kind of like all open and like I wasn't aware of it.
The longing glances that were the very long glances at Elizabeth Bennet that were in silence.
Am I the only one who loved the pregnant pauses in the first one?
Well, I know. I think everyone else loved it. I was the one that didn't love it. It was just me. It was just me.
But that's just how I feel. I feel like the love story wasn't as like... I mean, you couldn't catch it in this one, but I mean, they did towards the end. Mm-hmm. And I like the woman empowerment and everything. I like the beginning, how they were putting all their little gear on, knives and all that. So that's like my favorite part. And then also when they're all walking in together to fight the zombies or whatever, that one part.
Yes.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I am a sucker for a bunch of ladies. They do it in all the movies, Fast and Furious, all those ones where... Triple X, you know, Rise of Xander Cage or whatever the hell his name is. It actually doesn't have to be just women. It's whoever. Two pairs of people, they're fighting. They're a team. They end up back to back with each other, and then the camera circles around them. This was the five sisters are about ready to kick ass. They've kicked ass with the zombies. They end up back to back together, and I'm just like, oh god, I just love this so much.
And there's more action in this one, too, so it wasn't so, I guess, cut and dry like drama.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
So
there was some action.
Yeah.
What do you think, Megan?
I really liked it. It was confusing at first because we had just come off watching the actual Pride and Prejudice movie, so then I had to kind of clear my brain of that because the association was hurting. Because it's like... There were zombies in this movie. It's not.
You gotta re-gear everything to be like, okay, this is not a drama. This is a drama with a lot of action.
But I liked it because they used some of the same lines from the first movie, and I assume directly from the book. It's been a while since I've read it, but they incorporated those lines in, and I liked how they did that and wove it all together. I did like that they gave the women more empowerment.
Oh my god.
And that it didn't seem weird. None of the guys seemed weirded out that the girls were hoisting them onto horses and being like, let's get out of the danger zone. We've got this. So that was good. And as far as the zombies go, I guess the zombie movie watcher part of me was just spending too much time thinking, wait, so these are the zombies that run and they also talk and they're intelligent? What area of zombie are we working with here?
Yeah, it's you gotta segregate your zombie movies into, are these the virus zombies or are these they've just woken up from the dead zombies? Return of the Living Dead.
Because there was a moment when it looked like Darcy had gotten dead on the bridge where I was like, are they going to bring him back as a zombie and then they're still just going to have their love story? Is that going to work out? Is that the angle we're taking? But it turns out he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's a human.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
And also, he made the biggest mistake of any movie. He left his enemy for dead and they weren't dead.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and also there were zombies, so come on.
The extra scene at the end. I love this movie. Probably better than the other one.
I feel like it's comparing two different things though. Yeah, so you're allowed to.
Yeah. I just love the women empowerment. That was the biggest thing. Because after watching Pride and Prejudice, the regular version, the non-zombie version, the women let Mr. Darcy save Lydia and all that stuff. And I was like, is she going to go with him? When I was watching it the first time, I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, oh, that's the other version. In the movie with the zombies, they go and actually save Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy on multiple occasions. And I just that's what I want to see in a movie that empowers women. It passes the Bechdel test because the women talk to each other, and it's never. It's sometimes about other men.
When it is, it's usually that guy's annoying me.
Yeah, that guy's a dick. I don't like him. But yes, it was really good. I enjoyed it. Let's get a little bit further into it now. Let's talk about what we liked and then what we didn't like. We know Jenny didn't like the leather, so let's.
I will say to back up Jenny on that, it's weird that the sound department didn't just
tone it down a little bit,
edit it out. Why is it in there?
Well, maybe they added it because
they could have added it.
Because when I if Keith wears leather, unless it's really cold out, I can't hear it. So I have to imagine either it was really cold out and they just left that noise in,
or. Were they did you forget he's wearing leather pants? We'll let you know.
Yeah. Here you go, guys. Leather pants. So, what I found absolutely endearing was Mr. Collins. So, it is played by Matt Smith of Doctor Who fame and
The Crown.
Yeah. So, he's one of those BBC actors that gets around. I just thought he was absolutely... After seeing the regular one, I was like, well, this guy's just a jerk. And then seeing how well they did that with this guy, you kind of were rooting for him. You liked him. He was funny. Had the extra added moments of funniness that made you go, okay, so yes, we were in a tense scene, but we do have a very cute. He's always, they're cutting to him for reactions. That dancing scene.
Oh my gosh.
Hilarious.
So nuts.
Open it up. Anybody else want to say anything about that? Or
I think he was the best Mr. Collins I've ever seen.
Really?
And I've seen many Mr. Collins version. And he stole the scenes in some and you would never expect a Mr. Collins, that character, to be scene stealing.
Yeah.
You can't say it. But yeah, loved it.
Yeah, I think he was better than in the first one. He was more, funny. I mean, he did more stuff. The other guy in the first one was kind of like a jerk. But, yeah, I thought this one was better.
He was engaging and, Megan said, I kind of want to root for him, even though I'm not supposed to.
Even though he made comments like, we're going to have to put away your swords and replace those with pots and pans for cooking. And I was like, did you just tell her to get in the kitchen?
Yeah.
He 100% told her to get in the kitchen.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And when he proposes to her, he's like, well, of course you're going to have to give up your weapons because we can't have swords in the house. I'm like, well, how are you going to protect yourself?
That's what I was
buddy?
thinking too. I'm like, you should probably be more concerned because you can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, he let the women do everything whenever there was trouble. I think Mr. Bingley was a little bit like that too. He seemed a little afraid of the action. It seemed like to me.
Well, now the more that we talk about it, though, I was kind of starting to think like he's so pretty, which we all have noted.
We agreed.
Mr. Bingley is maybe the prettiest one in this movie, male or female, but like that's so that's so against what his character is in the others and in the book. Like he is like a happy kind of dork, and I'm wondering if that was just to even further drive home the like gender differences of like Mr. Bingley is the pretty man who has to be saved. He clearly doesn't know how to fight. Yeah, he looks a little creeped out and freaked out by all of it, and he gets saved by women multiple times. Is it just like part of that whole? Like not plot, but like part of what they're trying to say of like women empowerment. Like, look, here's the little pretty man they're always saving. Like,
women have been taught in this movie. Women have been taught how to fight. Either if the rich go to Japan and they learn all those styles of fighting, and the lesser classes, quote unquote, go to China and learn those fighting styles. And Shaolin is what Lizzie has learned. So they're all masters in their own art form when we see them. And it seems like Mr. Bingley hasn't been taught anything. He's like holds an axe like and then is immediately taken out by some guy just pulling him over a banister, and then Elizabeth slides down it. I'm like, it's Pride and Prejudice.
With zombies. However, they do change some of the characters a little bit. Like, we barely see Charlotte. She just comes in and we're like, new character. She's just there to show that Mr. Collins has married somebody else.
Yes.
He moved on from Lizzie extremely quickly.
Yes. Because he was sent to marry, and that's it. So, until this viewing, I had assumed he had married one of the other sisters. So I didn't know Charlotte was not a sister. So now that watching back to back, I learned something new. So I guess Pride and Prejudice happens, and then shenanigans, and zombies are there. No, actually,
is that a good synopsis?
So what actually happens is when they open up the movie, zombies apocalypse has already happened, and it's back in the Pride and Prejudice time frame. And they blame it on the French for some reason. I'm sure there's a joke there that I missed. But, Mr. Darcy is a warrior. We see he's going to houses and stopping the zombie plague before it kills the entire thing. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, except for Mr. Wickham takes Elizabeth to a chapel that is filled with zombies that are smart. They're not smart. They just haven't eaten human brains yet. So because of that,
not fully turned.
They're not fully turned. They eat pig's brains, so they're still pious. They can still talk, but they're still rotting. So this comes into one of the points of contention that Jenny and I have brought up, is that until they're fed human brains, they are actually still quite human. They can talk. They go to church. They have rituals and routines. They seem to have a family structure. So Mr. Wickham goes to Charlotte. Other Marianne. That's not right. While Charlotte's in the room, Mr. Wickham was actually giving his pitch to Lady Catherine. Now, back to our show. And says, hey, I have a plan. We need to work out something. And pretty much gets laughed out of the room, which is ridiculous. The logical thing would be, let's get them on our side and have them turn against the bad zombies. But no, Mr. Darcy gives them soldiers' brains and turns them all into bad zombies. And I'm like, that, what? Huh? What? And then it caused the big zombie horde that runs on London. What the heck?
I don't know. I
I don't get it. That's the one thing that one drawback I have for that movie is what is his motives behind this? Is he just being petty and trying to prove Mr. Wickham wrong? Or is he just not thinking his idea through?
Or is he so prejudiced
No.
against zombies?
Yes.
Or was this written by a woman and she's like, look, guys make dumb decisions to hurt each other.
Yeah. Right.
At the expense of everyone else.
At everyone else. Like, let's ruin the entire country because of one thing.
Was it a subtle commentary?
Maybe it
or
was.
was a scene deleted? We don't know.
Yeah. One of the two.
It's a tight 1 hour and 10 minute movie. So.
Yes.
Is that it?
Or wait, no.
90 minutes.
90 minutes.
It's tight 90 minutes. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because it filled in everything that we needed to hear about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what else do we want to... Anything want to talk about? Who...
Mr. Wickham was remarkably well preserved. How quickly do zombies zombify?
You know, he just had that one bite mark, so maybe if he already knew about the pig's brain thing, that he had the little spidery veins, but maybe he put makeup on it, just a deleted scene once again.
Maybe, because, like, even when he was leading the charge and the scene tacked on to the end, he was like, he had a fight with Mr. Darcy, and he's still like, I look relatively the same, it's fine.
Yeah. I expect, was his arm, because his arm was cut off by Elizabeth.
Oh, it was just back.
And no, but was it back or was it a bat? Did they have...
I thought he was holding something in the arm, I'm picturing, but maybe it was just like...
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. Is he holding a bat or does he have a bat is he like Evil Deading it?
He
like,
might
and
be Evil Deading it.
putting a bat on his arm. Stump.
Might have been Evil Deading it.
Okay. Well... That I really could have done without that scene. I mean, that was like a super dumb scene because they weren't going to make another movie.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't make enough money for them.
Yeah.
And they couldn't have thought that it was going to make a sequel.
Well, no, they're always hopeful.
I guess it's true.
Yeah.
In the when we saw it in the theater, that's how the movie ended. It wasn't like an extra scene.
It wasn't after any credits. They just
that's like how they ended. It went from walking out of the wedding to the zombie thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, when we get to our ratings, it's scales from 1 to 10. But I also have, so it's going to be entertainment value. We also have our Pride and Prejudice score. So, how much do you think it adhered to the Pride and Prejudice-ness of it? Ooh. And that will be for Jenny and Megan. For Angela and I, we can't really judge it. So that's your extra one. We also have, because we are a horror podcast, we want to do a horror factor. You are our scaredy cat.
Yeah.
So Angela is a seasoned veteran, just like I am.
Yeah.
Megan, are you a horror fan?
I'm like above Jenny, but below, I don't know, like Halloween, I'm good on that. That's about the level. I don't like I don't like gore a lot.
Okay.
I think.
So let's start with Jenny. She's our fraidy cat. So did you ever have to look away from the screen?
A couple times. There was some gore. I think that I had a couple like moments, but it wasn't too bad. So as a non-horror kind of scared person, I was cool. I was good.
You were fine with watching it.
I was fine watching it.
Did it help that you'd already seen it? Like, you liked it a lot more this time, and I'm just wondering if
that could have been
your brain has adjusted to knowing, like, this isn't going to be Jane Austen.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So, entertainment value, 1 to 10. How much did you enjoy this movie?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'd give it maybe like a overall.
Overall, yeah.
Probably like a 5 or a 6. Like, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it wasn't as Pride and Prejudice-y
as you wanted it to be.
I would want, but I liked the women empowerment of it. I think what really drops it down for me is Mr. Darcy's voice. But I enjoyed it overall, and I thought it was very entertaining.
So, what about horror factor, 1 to 10? What do you think?
It's probably like a 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's go to Megan. You need your Pride and Prejudice score.
Oh, my Pride and Prejudice score is probably at like a 3 or 4.
Oh,
It's-
really? That low?
it's not-
And even though the lines were
There were
exactly
some
the
that
same,
were the same lines, but like
the zombies just like threw it way
they
off.
really did, and like even just like her gowns weren't the right color for being.
Yeah.
The historical accuracy.
Historical accuracy in this
Rated
zombie
zero.
Really,
film.
like, brought this thing down.
Okay, Megan, what's your overall rating first?
I would give it, honestly, like an 8. I mean, if you go into this knowing it's just like a fun romp,
Mhm.
I thought it was funny. I thought there was good action. Mr. Collins really, I elevated it for me, I think. Like, he was hilarious. And they've got good actors in it,
Yeah.
so I enjoyed it a lot.
Horror factor?
Oh, probably like a 2. I mean,
Yeah.
the opening had some pretty gross pus thing that
Mhm.
freaked me
Yeah,
out.
that was the only really
Yeah,
like,
it was
okay,
best.
what is that? That's like, I guess, like trying to scare all the people that are like, oh, this is Pride and Prejudice, let's go see it. They just like stop reading right after Pride and Prejudice and don't see the zombies part, so they can leave the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because after that, it was pretty much like all the kills were either off screen or you didn't see a lot of blood.
Spray of blood and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so I didn't feel
Mhm.
like scared by any of that at all. The pus thing mostly just grossed me out. But
Mhm. Yeah. So now your Pride and Prejudice score.
I'm gonna be a little more generous than Jenny was. I think, honestly, I'd give it at least a 6. I
Okay.
did not expect them to adhere at all. Like, the minute zombies showed up,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, this can go anywhere. But they really did incorporate some of the same lines. They hit the story beats. They changed a couple things to fit the zombies in,
Mhm.
obviously. But overall, they stuck to it way more than I would have expected them to.
Yeah.
So,
Angela?
The first one is what
The first one, your just overall entertainment.
I liked it. I'd probably give it like a 6 or a 7. I mean, I
Mhm.
enjoyed it. I mean, it kept me interested. I mean, it wasn't like dull and boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like
the first
damn, guys, come on.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of action in it, so it kind of kept me interested. And the other one's the horror.
Mm-hmm.
Horror
Yeah.
rating.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like a 2, 1 or a 2.
Okay.
Because like the only thing that really scared me was the same thing that Megan said about the beginning, where that pus or whatever was coming out of that nose. That was kind of gross.
Mhm.
But that was it. And then overall, Pride and Prejudice, I think it was. Yeah, I like how they incorporated the same lines. It kind of went along the same as the first one, the original. I mean, there was some things different, like at the end, that one guy married that girl, and in this one they actually just went and saved her. Because I imagine, because it had the zombies in it.
Yeah.
And the original didn't. But as far as I'd probably get like a 6 or a 7.
Mm-hmm. So I just checked my IMDb rating on it because I'd already rated this one, and I would probably give it an 8, 8.5 if I could give it a half point. It was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was fun. I love the it was just enough romance in it for me to be like, yeah, I like this, and no pregnant pauses where nothing's happening. I know. That's probably just my choice in drama, is that I don't like the long silences because I just get impatient. It's like, just kiss each other. But then I know that's not how Pride and Prejudice goes, you know, so...
Oh, I don't think there were nearly as many pregnant pauses in the BBC one.
There weren't.
I think they just added them in this more
To
current
get the
one.
longing glances at each other.
That, and I just think it's like, to add that level of like these characters being awkward. Like, I don't like feeling awkward. The Office makes me feel very awkward, and I love watching it. But it was sort of that level of like,
Yeah.
I know why
Just
this is
say
here.
something.
I know why this is happening. Oh God, like.
Yeah. So I give it an 8 for 8.5 for entertainment value because it was enjoyable. I love the women saving themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when Lydia gets saved at the end, she's pretty much done. She's like, I don't need you, Mr. Darcy. I will ride my horse and I will leave. And she just goes. She's, oh no wilting flowers in this. The only wilting flower was Mr. Collins, which was adorable. So horror, I give it a 3. there is one scene that is glossed over in this that is not glossed over in the other one. The Mr. Wickham leaves with Mr. Darcy's sister, and she's very young, like 14, 15 in the movie. I don't know if it's younger in the book. And
it's the same age in the book.
Yeah.
Okay, and so promises, it says he's going to marry her, but doesn't. And did you say he?
I thought he slept with her.
Yeah.
I don't think he
You think Darcy got to
sleeps
him in
with Darcy's sister. He sleeps with Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're living in sin before Darcy. Yes.
So
yes, they are verified living in sin.
So that's the thing that is a little skeevy that I don't that would add to the horror point for me, because gross. I mean, even back in those days, they did it all the time.
But that was still young.
But they all, but
well, the intention.
everyone had the intention is the problem, and the fact that he sleeps with her, and it's not seen in this movie. But it is definitely mentioned in the other movie that is causing disgrace upon the Bennett family because he did this, and Darcy goes and saves her by giving
him money to
marry him, which is ridiculous. And then, gross. So that's a 3 because there's horror, and then the little ski factor of that guy. I mean, okay. So going back to horror in the other movie. What's with the pig balls?
Yeah, I don't know.
That was a little much for me.
The most important horror aspect of this. Just the lingering shot.
The lingering shot on giant ass pig balls. What the heck?
It was a directorial decision.
They just missed the whole... In that scene, they missed just the whole point of what Pride and Prejudice is.
Yeah, obviously.
And...
I don't remember that in the book at all.
Obviously it's
Miss
not.
Bennett stares at the balls longingly of a pig.
There's a description of pig testicles in the book that Jenny has glossed over, but I want to bring to light as a true fan.
Alrighty, folks. Does anybody else have anything you want to say?
I have one question, and I don't mean to spur discussion, but I just realized what was with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We saw them. They just didn't do anything. Yeah. And then they were gone.
I think that might have been something maybe in a deleted scene or something. Because they showed him in the painting. Elizabeth sees him first at the beginning. And then we see him again with Mr. Darcy with the gold mask. Yeah. And then nothing. And then we don't see him doing anything. I think they were just there for atmospheric spookness.
Okay. I just realized
because they were pretty spooky. They that was... When I remember seeing it for the first time, I was like, ooh, creep factor. That. I love the mask. That was such a weird... Yeah. You don't expect that.
They look like they were going to be like a cool, big bad, maybe directing Wickham or whatever. Yeah. And then we just never see them again.
But you find out that Wickham is the one that's been doing it the whole time. Ugh.
Yeah. He's a terrible person.
He is a terrible person. And so, one, he's sleeping with underage ladies.
Yes. Very underage ladies.
Chronically too, not even just oops once, no, oops twice makes it a problem.
I don't think it's an oops. I think it was very intentional.
Yeah, he is not good. Yeah, so he's not a good guy. Don't invite him over to your house. Don't invite him to your don't introduce him to your children.
Children's party.
Yeah,
guys. When the regimentals come through town, the moral is maybe just chill out.
But you know what? I think that's a real thing. Back in the 1700s and in the 2000s, every woman loves a man in a uniform.
Isn't it just the equivalent of sailors coming home to port or whatever?
Alrighty, folks. Does anybody have anything they want to promote? Any charities that you're passionate about, or things that you're doing upcoming? I don't think anybody here does anything. I just have this podcast, which you're listening to already. So I don't think we have anything.
So listen to that.
Alrighty, folks. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
It's All Been Done presents Who's Got the Chime?